It's the Social Oddities Podcast, coming at you from 5 parts of the UK, all for one reason: the amazing world of wrestling.
I've never seen a crowd so fired up, JR. They know what's coming next. They can't wait to get started, and neither can I.
Welcome everybody to episode 4 of the Social Oddities Podcast. I'm your host, Damien. I'm joined this week by Rach, Kev, and Chris. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Again, we're not joined by Adam, who's decided to miss the second week running. But again, like I promised last week,
Part-time.
we will this week try and get him live by satellite again, like the part-timer he is. So you can look forward to a little bit of him later on. So another busy show this week. We've got Raw and Smackdown to discuss, and there's been a load of questions come in on social media as well. So if you want to join in on those questions or send us comments or feedback, you can do it on our Twitter page at TSO_podcast, on our Facebook page, facebook.com/the Social Oddities Podcast, or on our brand new website on the socialoddities.co.uk. So go on there and check out our quiz, listen to our shows, send us comments, send us feedback, and we will discuss it next week. So first couple of questions about Raw and Smackdown then. So I just wanted to kick off with something I was thinking when I was watching it. The main event of Raw, Triple H and Foley really basically in the main event, kind of the same as it was about 20 years ago, wasn't it? I was, back in 2099, those two were pretty much the main event as well. So I know we've been talking about part-timers recently, but do you think that's a problem with the WWE creating new stars since, there's two guys in the main event that have been there 20 years ago?
No, that was awesome. That whole segment was brilliant, regardless of what you think.
Fair enough. To be fair, that's fine. But it was a good segment. I think Triple H is always good.
Down a peg there.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll sit down and I'll shut up. Thank you for that.
Yeah, come on. You have to be serious here.
I was saying Triple H does make everybody look a bit bad when he turns up because he is so good at what he does.
That damn good.
Really is.
Exactly, Chris. Come on.
I was only thinking things really haven't moved on that much if those two are still main eventing in a way. Do you know what I mean? It has been 20 years. They are obviously two good guys, but is there a problem generally with creating new stars?
Yes, in a word. Because they keep on relying on the old guys to come back and pop a rating when they should be building up. I mean, I liked that segment. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And I think it served a purpose because it's making, obviously, Rollins look more vulnerable than what he is. So when it comes to WrestleMania, I think that's getting people more behind them as well. So I think what they done was the right thing to do by making the injury look worse than what it is, and they're going to play on that. And obviously Rollins are going to sell it for the next couple of weeks, leading to WrestleMania when he comes out, and hopefully he should go for Triple H. That should be the only way that match goes.
Yeah, definitely.
That's maybe not what Rach wants to hear. I could hear that, Rach. But that is how it should go, because you've got to build the new guys. You can't rely on the old guys next year, the year after that.
So you say that they're basically the new guy. We'll call Rollins the new guy in this feud.
Yeah, he's been there for a few years. I know that, but he's a younger guy, or
so
a guy that's going to carry the company for the next few years to come.
You say he should beat the old guy. That's rarely what they do, isn't it? Like, for example, The Undertaker beat Bray Wyatt. Lesnar basically always smashes people to bits. The Big Show's winning matches again. They don't often put the new guy over.
The Undertaker is the only anomaly to the case where he should win at WrestleMania. I still don't believe he should have lost the streak at WrestleMania 30. But that's just me. The Undertaker's the only anomaly to that where he could win whenever he wants. That's just because he's the Undertaker.
And for example, Triple H has beaten Lesnar before as well. And Lesnar was the guy that was probably going to show up more than Triple H at that point. And they were going to build Lesnar into this big monster, and Triple H beat him as well. So do you really see Rollins winning that match?
I do.
Annoyingly, yes. I can't see why they would let Triple H win that one.
Because the last few years, Triple H has been fine with putting people over. I think he's realised that now. So unless your name's CM Punk, then he doesn't know how to put him over.
So I know my feelings to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway before Rachel slaps me down again. Because Triple H is clearly even when he walks out, he plays that sort of cool heel, and he does it better than anybody else, which is probably a damning indictment on the current roster. But does Triple H need to be on camera at this time in his career?
He's still got a good role to play because he's got star power.
Yeah, he's still pretty relevant, I think.
When he turns up, you want to watch what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best thing about it, he's not on TV every week. So when you do see him, it's the excitement factor of it.
That it does mean something when he turns up. But,
yeah, well, I agree with all of you. I was just asking the question whether you think that role, he's clearly taking a spot from somebody else.
Yeah, but that segment was a bit of a combination of two things, really. To, move forward the whole Seth Rollins angle, and then there was the whole, I think, building up for the departure of Mick Foley. They had to slowly sort of start sliding that in, I think, doing the two storylines in one. I think that's what they're pushing towards at the minute, setting that up for him to go.
Where do you see Foley going from now? Do you see him, because if he just sneaks off now, then he's basically,
he's not going to sneak off. They're going to keep building the tension between him and Steph's eventually going to let him go, or something like that. He has to leave anyway, sometime soon anyway.
I genuinely thought with the whole firing angle thing where she was telling him to fire someone, I thought he was going to say himself. I really did.
Yeah.
For a split second, I was like, he's going to just say himself that he can't do it no more, and that's his way of getting out.
But I did like the fire that he showed and saying it's you, Steph. I like that.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Because it's not very often that people stand up to Stephanie. So I liked that, even though it was two kind of managerial or authority role type figures standing up to each other. It's still good to see someone stand up to Stephanie.
I don't understand the whole concept of this Socko thing, though. I don't really understand it just sounds gross more than anything. I don't really get it.
What don't you get?
I really don't get the whole thing why he does it. If anything, I'm just disgusted by it.
Oh, you need to go back and watch the segment where Socko was born.
Oh God.
Was that after your time, was it? I think, but when did you start watching? It was 99, wasn't it? So
99, yeah.
Did you just miss it? Maybe you did.
Would have been just about that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always remember being grossed out by it, and I still am.
Actually, no, hang on. It might have been Survivor Series 98.
It was about 98, 99, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you just missed that then. So you need to go back. You need to go back. You've got a lot of homework, actually, Rach. You've got indie shows to watch, and you've got basically
so much
early.
You
got mid 90s stuff to watch now as well.
Yeah, so basically, we're all just going to go to Orlando and then say to Rach, like, here's stuff to watch. We don't need the hotel room.
Well, that is a massive gap in your knowledge. So obviously, if anybody else has got any other gaps in or things that Rach should be watching now from sort of 97 to 99, then tweet in and we'll give us some homework to do for next week. That sounds like a good plan.
And then we'll test you on it next week.
Yeah, there we go. So just a word on Rollins. Then Rollins obviously turned up in the main event. If his injury was as bad as first reported, he has done a hell of a job in getting fit this quick.
Yeah, he's done really well. I think that, again, going back to the angle as a whole, that segment was just fantastic. I loved it.
It's a shame the rest of the show wasn't like that, really.
I didn't mind. Well, I liked quite a lot of the show, to be fair. Not all of it, but I liked a few parts of it. So
yeah, it was one of the better ones lately.
All right, well, I'll test you two now then. What do we think of the New Day?
Past the sell-by date.
Because to be fair,
past the sell-by date.
And I get no credit, right? So I'm going to attempt to get a little bit now. I said the New Day were as dull as anything about 4 weeks ago, and you all shouted at me. So I think you're slowly coming round now, aren't you?
I think it was more
I think I agreed with you.
Yeah, okay. I'll let you off them.
I mean, they can still be entertaining, but I just think it's...
It kind of... They remind me of Enzo, that too cheesy, trying too hard, trying to be funny, just shut up. That's kind of how I feel about them.
No, they're not on the same level as that at all.
Yeah, they feel like they're trying too hard. I'm like, all right, stop.
No, Enzo and Cass try too hard. The New Day are just funny. I still like them. I think they still work.
They can at times. I think they're coming towards the end of their time, to be completely honest. I think I said that last time as well. They're going to split up soon. So,
and to be fair, I fast forwarded through that bit, but what would they on about? Anything with Titus O'Neil, and were they arguing about the Jetsons? What's going on?
Oh, it's because they had the whole
What's going on?
WWE film coming out where,
for God's sake.
Yeah. They had the last couple of years. They've had the Scooby-Doo one, they've had the Surfs Out one, or Surfs Up, whatever it was. Now they've got the Jetsons one.
I think it's that. I think it's the pandering that annoys me. Do you know what I mean? The sort of pandering to the kids, or the sort of...
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really aimed at us, though. Is it? Obviously, that type of thing, it's more aimed towards getting the kids to buy the DVDs and buy all the merchandise and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's still quite a big seller in merchandise, so...
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't want to be too grumpy, so I'm going to leave the New Day where they are.
Might change a habit of a lifetime.
Yeah, thanks. So let's talk about Reigns for a second, because obviously his match with the Undertaker has been confirmed, like we thought it would be. What do we think? Well, I know we're not particularly looking forward to it. I think it actually might be quite a good spectacle of a match. I think they're two big names. I'm not as grumpy about it as I was, so I'm kind of looking forward to it a little bit. And to be fair, Reigns can go. I'm not convinced if Reigns is the guy to carry the Undertaker, but I think Reigns can go when he needs to. So I'm not as down on that, but I wanted to get your thoughts on where you saw Strowman filling in, because he could easily just go back to the Battle Royal and he could easily just kind of disappear, but he's still doing stuff with Reigns. Is that just to tide him over until Mania, or do you reckon they might insert him into the match or something?
He'll be in the Battle Royal. He'll win the Battle Royal, then after it, I can see him maybe still doing something with Reigns where that kind of blows off their feud, and Reigns is then going to move on to the Universal title.
So why wouldn't you make it a triple threat?
Because I don't think it really needs it. I think they should just focus on the whole Roman Reigns Undertaker thing. I don't think it's Braun's time yet, really, to have a moment like that, in my opinion.
I mean, Braun's been good the last few months. He's been
great, but not,
But I wouldn't put
Undertaker
him in,
great.
No.
Let's be serious.
I don't think Reigns deserves it either, but I don't think Braun deserves that spot yet.
So do you think the Undertaker might need carrying in the match? Do you think he's a bit broken down, a bit injured, or whatever? A triple threat hides his weaknesses a bit.
I think saying that the Undertaker needs carried is the wrong thing to say. I think he's still got it in him to have a good match. He's still got the wrestling mind, the psychology to have a good match. I just think it may be a bit of a slower match than what he would usually have. So I think it will still be a good match. It doesn't need carried. But if you're talking about someone, we'll go back to this, but if you're talking about someone that was going to carry the Undertaker, stick him in there with Cena or AJ Styles. Simple as that.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you guys think?
I don't know. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I don't think carrying is the right word. To be fair, I mean, the Undertaker can still go. Otherwise, why are they going to keep putting him in these sorts of matches? I don't know how long he's going to last. I think it's going to be a pretty short match, in my opinion and stuff. But
I can still see it going 15 minutes.
You really think?
Yeah.
Well, I think it'll be a slow match. I think it'll be 15 minutes before you kind of realise if anything's happened. I think they can drag it out, and he can do all his slow stuff, and that's fine. But
I quite like the sort of added touch of having Shawn Michaels come out. I thought that was quite good. I mean, it was really brief, but I think that's all it needed, really, to just sort of add a little bit more. It's pretty obvious that they're turning, Roman Reigns heel. It's quite clear that that's going to probably happen at WrestleMania. But I did like the whole sort of added element of Shawn Michaels coming out, putting his 2 pennies worth in there a little bit. I thought that was good.
But you see, you're saying it's obvious they've got to turn Reigns heel, and that's where I wanted to go. But is it too obvious?
So do you think Reigns retires the Undertaker?
No.
Because I still want him to come back and fight. Lesnar.
I don't think they're going to give Roman that power to do that. I really don't. I don't think it's going to be him that's going to have that moment.
I'm going to be unpopular here and say I think he is. Honestly think that's who they've chose to retire him.
Because Reigns, to me, it feels like Reigns is being built up to be the new Cena.
Oh yes, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you have him retire the Undertaker?
I want to show here.
Like I know what we all want for next year with the Undertaker and Lesnar and New Orleans and all the rest of it, but Reigns beats him. I don't know, beats him down at the end of the match, injures him, whatever, retires him. He'd get his heel heat. He'd be an even bigger star. Why wouldn't you pass that torch on to the guy that you think is going to be the new Cena?
But then if you're going to have Reigns as the new Cena, he's not going to go heel. He's not going to beat him down at the end of the match. It's going to be a case of he beats him clean, then the torch gets passed with a handshake, or he raises his hand or something at the end. So it's not going to be
Maybe
a heel
they just do
turn.
that. Maybe they just do that then. The only reason I say that is if they do that, if they have him beat him clean and a handshake at the end of it and all that rubbish, he's going to get booed anyway. Yeah. So they might as well go with the crowd, hadn't they?
But you can still turn him heel and have Reigns get beat. That's what I want. That's what I don't think is going to happen, but it's what I want.
I will say it's one of the matches that I'm not as sure on the winner as most of the other ones. There's a little bit of unpredictability with it, which is a good thing.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think most of the other matches you could have a go at guessing the winner, and you probably wouldn't be too far off. But I could see them going both ways with this one. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing how they're going to do it.
I'm looking forward to the match because Reigns isn't as bad as what people say. I mean, I'm not a fan of him. I don't particularly like him, but he's not bad in the ring. That's as close to a compliment as you're going to get.
I agree with you there, Chris. I mean, I am a fan of him, so I'm different.
But it's the character that I don't like. It's not so much the guy in the ring. He can still have good matches. It's the character and how much he's pushed down people's throats.
Yeah, I do agree with you about that. That is true.
I will say something that people are going to probably hit me for this, especially a certain someone, sort of asking for trouble this week by the feel of it. But Rollins has got something about him. When he comes out, he's got a presence about him. I think Reigns has a presence about him when he comes out. So out of the three guys in the Shield, I'm not overly convinced that Ambrose does. I think two of the guys have got presences about them. I think when Reigns comes out, you might not like him, but I think he's a bit of a star. People react to him. He's definitely got something about him.
No matter what, you're making noise.
I'm just thinking Ambrose is kind of faded, isn't he? We should probably talk about him and Corbin.
Corbin's just the way he's been booked. That's all it is. It's because we are having Roman Reigns just shoved down our throats all the time. And don't get me wrong, I really do like Rollins. He is one of my top guys, and there's no question about that. But Dean Ambrose just hasn't been booked properly at all since moving to SmackDown.
So what do you think? We're kind of moving on to SmackDown a little bit. So I'll tell you what, let's park Ambrose. I will come back to him later.
If we're going back to Raw just now, then can I just ask what people thought of the Brock Lesnar Paul Heyman segment?
Same as usual, isn't it? Really for them, come out, say stuff, go away.
Exactly, yeah. Taking it in turns. Goldberg 1 week, Brock another week, then Paul Heyman another week. Oh, it's so boring.
But it's still usual promo from Heyman, making up things that people can chant along to as well, and down goes Goldberg and all that kind of stuff. I just find it all, like you said, Rich, I'm not really into this match at all.
I was just going to say, I think it's because everyone's expecting 2-3 minutes and it's finished.
Because that's what's going to happen, quite clearly. That is what's going to happen.
And that's why nobody's into it. Exactly.
It's just a complete waste of our time.
Talking of Goldberg Lesnar, one of our questions this week comes from Jack, who says nobody's really looking forward to the match. To be fair, you know what it's going to be. It's going to be a fairly quick match. Crowd are probably going to turn on it. Would you have the title match open the show? So we did very briefly mention this sort of thing last week. They've done it before. They did it with Sheamus and Bryan. They've done it, I think, with Edge and Del Rio as well back at 27. So they've done it a few times. It does get the match that I guess people aren't really looking forward to out of the way. And then you can probably end it on the Undertaker match, I suppose. My feeling is that they're probably the two biggest guys they've got. They're probably, front and center on the poster. So I can see them ending Mania. But what do we think about them opening it?
I don't think they'll open it.
I wouldn't have them open it. I think that would be the wrong thing to do. I'd have it somewhere like mid to late or in the card, but not finishing the show.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you have it open? Because you can open on a high and end on a high.
Because I think it'll be the New Day will start the show, or something.
They'll come out and intro it, but after that.
But I mentioned in a chat earlier on that I think I can see them turning heel or splitting up at WrestleMania, the New Day. But we'll come back to that. It's a different discussion for a different time.
So I think the consensus is that we probably see this ending the show.
I think it is going to, but that's not where I think it should be. But
should be on the pre-show, really, shouldn't it? I think that'd be the best place for it.
Because again, we've had this discussion now for the last 2 weeks, and we'll probably have it a few more times about how good a match is it going to be to end the show. So I've been looking at a few facts and figures. I'm trying to turn into Chris here, but the shortest ever WrestleMania main event has been 11 minutes. Do we see this one beating it?
Yep.
Yeah, straight up.
I suppose. Are you saying main event as an advertised main event? Because you had the whole. I'm going to get technical here.
If you're going to mention WrestleMania 9,
Hogan Yokozuna.
Yeah. I wasn't including that. The shortest was the Bret Yoko match from that event, WrestleMania 9, and that was 11 minutes, I think. So I see Goldberg Lesnar going 5, but can you really have a 5-minute match close WrestleMania? We've asked this a few times, and
that is what they're going to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's not ask again.
I don't think they will. I really don't think they're going to close with them two.
What do you think they're going to close with, Rich?
Either The Undertaker and Reigns or Bray and Randy. I really do. I can't understand why they would put those two in the ultimate main event when they know the crowd really isn't that into it.
See, I wouldn't mind either of those other two matches being on last.
Yeah, they don't. It doesn't bother me if it was either of the other two. It will bother me if it is Brock Lesnar and Goldberg.
But I would prefer to have the world title match on last, and I would still have Bray win it. Because even though Bray's a heel, when he wins, it's going to be dark at that point, and people are going to have their cameras out. That's a visual show.
That's true. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So that's how I would end it. Bray wins the match. He's still a heel. You're not turning him face, but everybody's still going to have their cameras out. You're still going to see all the fireflies. The camera pans out. It's going to be like in the helicopter outside. Now you're going to see all these lights.
Oh, you really think about these things, don't you?
So if Uncle Vince is listening, they can just send me a check.
Yeah.
I imagine he is listening. I know we've got some quite big followers now. I imagine Vince is one of them. So
yeah,
obviously
he's doing his he listens to us on his midnight workouts.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to SmackDown then, because that set up a few WrestleMania matches as well. Obviously, the biggest being AJ and Shane. I think again we've asked this before, but just to get your thoughts, looking forward to that, or do you think AJ deserves better?
AJ deserves better, but I still think it'll be a good match because AJ can drag Shane to a good match. Yeah,
I think any AJ match is 3 stars minimum, so
at least
Shane can do his bit as well, to be fair to him.
Yeah, I mean Shane's not bad. He can still have good. He's had good matches, and he can still have good matches. Just as long as he doesn't throw punches, because they just look dreadful.
So we will quickly preview the card in a second. I want to know what your thoughts on what sort of match that might be, because at the moment it's
just 1-on-1, isn't it?
There's a lot of singles matches. There's a lot of basically bog standard matches. There's not many gimmick matches at all, and Styles and Shane looks like it could be some sort of gimmick match. Shane always does that sort of thing.
It'll be a street fight, a holds barred or something to try and get them outside so they can brawl a little bit. And again, that then can they?
I would prefer to see that.
Yeah, and that can protect Shane a wee bit from what he can do and what he can't do.
Yeah, you can't particularly have a straight up fight with Shane because he needs to jump off stuff and he needs to do stuff. So
it'll be interesting to see what the setup's like for WrestleMania, just to see what he can jump off.
Well, there's pillars he can climb up.
Yeah, I'm sure they can do something there.
So one thing I wanted to mention to Chris probably is you've been asking for weeks where American Alpha have gone. They main evented SmackDown this week.
Technically, yeah.
Where did that come from?
They just kind of said, right guys, on you go.
Yeah, they remembered they have a tag team division on SmackDown.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure where they fit into SmackDown, into WrestleMania just yet. If they've announced a match, I've missed it, so you can correct me. But
I've not announced it yet, no. But I think it's maybe going to get added in maybe to the pre-show. I would think.
I would say so.
Usos winning the match, they'll be like default number 1 contenders now.
So do you reckon they just replay this match again? Do they? The Alpha versus the Usos. Yeah.
I think it was kind of like a screwy finish at the end as well, So
yeah.
I still think American Alpha win at WrestleMania. If that's the road they do go down and do this match again, American Alpha get the win back. But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of out of nowhere. It's like, oh, by the way, we do have a tag team division. Here's the main two teams. They just stuck them out there. There was no, I said no build. They've been like teasing it for a few weeks, and there was nothing for a few weeks, and then they said, maybe we should actually do something with these guys. So I thought
it feels a little bit like a lot of matches have been a little bit thrown together last minute, and as you said, they've just remembered they've got a team, and they've just I think, yeah, like you say, they'll probably throw them on the pre-show, but yeah, it's definitely a shame they can't think to build up every match. Do you know what I mean? A lot of these are just thrown together last minute.
Yeah, some are.
I mean, it looked like they were building towards this match about a month ago, and then they kind of built towards it for 2 weeks, then forgot about it for 2 or 3, then just said, "I've got it again. Here you go. Remembered you were here."
So another match that was announced was obviously the mixed tag that was being rumored for quite a while. The Miz and Maurice against Cena and Nikki Bella, everybody's favourite, obviously. So the one thing that's kind of just been forgotten about a little bit, I know they mentioned it, but the whole Bryan Miz thing never really went anywhere, did it?
There's still time for that to take off.
Yeah, but I don't know what they're going to. I'm not sure what they're doing. I know Bryan has he hasn't said it, but Cena feels like his replacement in a way. Do you know what I mean? But I'm surprised they didn't really do much with Bryan and the Miz. I thought they might have convinced Bryan to do a match.
It was never going to happen.
I know, but come on, I'm allowed to. I think Bryan would be all up for it, to be honest.
He would be, but WWE wouldn't.
I'm still surprised by that, to be honest.
The doctors.
I'm still surprised because I think they've cleared a lot of people that are in a worse shape than him, from what I can gather. I'm a little bit surprised they haven't cleared him for one match, especially if they could protect him or do something quick or something.
I think he's already said as well, and I've heard this. I don't know if it's been on like Total Bellas or Total Divas. I don't watch that, but I think he has said in some sort of media platform or something that he has trained and he has developed a new, safer style.
Yeah.
Yes, he definitely said that. It was on Total Divas.
Right. Okay. the Total Divas watcher in Rach tells me that. Thanks, Rach.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, hang on, Chris.
So she doesn't watch Independence, but she watches Total Divas.
This does sound like your homework for next week, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. You guys should all be watching Total Divas. Come on.
Oh, hell no.
What do you mean, hell no? Great.
I have no comment on it.
Kev gets me to watch it.
Not necessarily. I do quite enjoy it as well.
I don't watch it, but because I had heard that he said that he had trained and developed a new style that was a bit safer for him for the chance or for when the time does come where he does come back and do a match.
He showed Nikki Bella some stuff as well, so that she didn't have to keep putting so much pressure on her neck all the time. So,
and I think that time will come. And when they watched Talking Smack last week, where Miz and Daniel Bryan were having an argument, and Miz said that all you want to do is wrestle and you can't, and he said, I can't or they won't let me, meaning WWE. Then said, we'll see in 18 months, meaning that's kind of hinting that his contract's out in 18 months and he's maybe going to go somewhere in 18 months and wrestle for someone else.
I think they let him have a match. That's what I think.
If people don't watch Talking Smack, they really should, because it's brilliant.
Yeah. So your view is they would never let him have a match?
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
I think they might, I think...
Yeah, I think they will.
I think they'll let him have one. I think the Miz, they trust the Miz to protect him. I think they'll make it short. I think they'll have a payoff. I think they'll do something.
If they do it, it's going to be in about 18 months when they realise we can still maybe milk this guy and make some more money off him. We'll give him a contract, but we need to make him wrestle.
Yeah.
So it's going to be another 18 months in the making.
I reckon they do something fairly soon, over the next 3-4 months.
No, I don't think so.
No, I agree with you, Chris.
Well,
I really can't see them letting them do anything. I honestly think the next time you see him wrestle will be in Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor will be in CMML or CMLL in Mexico or in Japan. One of those three.
I don't know.
I think he can probably take 1 or 2 bumps as long as he's delivering the offensive move. I think they can make it a really short match. They could do a payoff in some way. But yeah, we'll wait and see on that, I think. So I got 2 last things to talk about from SmackDown before we move on. One is, it was nice to see Styles get a little bit more aggressive. That was a hell of hell of a visual that Shane going through the window. I thought that was pretty well done.
I like
what, with
that.
the camera from inside the car as well? That's
Okay,
visual, you mean?
That was less well done, that bit, to be honest. But the first showing of him going through the window, that was I thought that was pretty good.
I liked that as well. I liked the attack and then him going through the window. What I didn't like is what Rachel said.
Yeah.
There was a camera on the inside of the car. If you're trying to make your people think that it's a legitimate thing where he's been put through the window, is like, oh, but we actually had a camera inside the car.
Just happened to be there. How handy.
It's a coincidence. Come on, guys.
Wasn't it great that we just had a camera in here? It just makes it look. It's sometimes like as well when they got backstage interviews and that as well. It's like, can you guys not see the camera? You try to have a wee private conversation here.
To be fair, that they've always done this, haven't they? Like
I know, but
like even with the whole Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt thing, with Orton giving him some dodgy looks, you think, well, Bray could have seen that. Like he would have just watched telly. Sure. Yeah, like you're gonna have to suspend some disbelief somewhere. But I agree with you. As a bit, they could have, because the first camera angle didn't show that, and it was still pretty good. They didn't need to do it as well, which is the annoying thing.
It's like, let's have a look at it from this angle, from inside the car. So yeah, I didn't like that part of it, but I thought the attack and everything was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to watch.
So last point then for all of you, who has Dolph Ziggler annoyed? Because he was main eventing. What was it? A couple of months, 6 months ago. The whole Miz thing, that was a main event, wasn't it? No Mercy.
It should have been, yeah.
So where's he disappeared to? Anybody that's in a match with Mojo has disappeared off the face of the earth.
Not just that, but Mojo won the match technically.
Oh, that was so cringe.
So I think is it safe to say Ziggler's time in the sun is gone then, is it? He won't be back, we don't think?
The thing is,
his time was up months ago.
With the heel turn though, I thought that was going to be a thing where he'd maybe get pushed again.
Yeah.
Because Ziggler's good.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it's good.
I don't see it. I've never been a fan of Ziggler, ever.
Just all you need to do, I know it's seen gone back in maybe five years ago, but watch the reaction he gets when he has Money in the Bank and he goes to cash it in Miami.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I just never got it at all.
The reaction he got that night though was because it was merited because the fans know how good he can be.
Mm.
I don't think he's got maybe the passion he had for it back then. Now,
do we think Ziggler was a guy on the brink of something, or do you think they were just reacting to the fact that somebody was cashing in Money in the Bank?
Ziggler was good back then. He still is good. I mean, just have a look at the matches he had with Miz as well, and that's not just down to the Miz. Miz has been brilliant since the brand split. I've said that many times.
Yeah.
But for me, Ziggler's one of the guys who can be there or thereabouts.
I think everybody knows he's good. Is he main event level good?
Upper mid card for me. Yeah. But still, that's a good spot to have. So.
No, because you're basically saying that's the same as Dean Ambrose, and it's definitely not.
So since we're on SmackDown and since we said we'd mentioned Ambrose,
Ambrose is happy to be there. So.
Yeah, he might be happy to be there, but there's no way they're on the same level, him and Ziggler. You cannot say that. I know,
because Ziggler's better.
Oh, don't even get me started. You will have a battle on your hands here.
It's just easy to wind you up, Rach. I like Ambrose as well, but I like Ziggler too. So, but if you're going to say who would I want pushed over the other one, I would say Ambrose over Ziggler. But that's
fine. You don't need to say anything else.
I just like winding you up. It's fine.
The Ambrose Corbin match at WrestleMania. Then, what do you see that being? Any sort of gimmick match? Because I think Ambrose does better in gimmick matches than normal matches, to be fair.
They can have the same type of gimmick match and just call it something else, which they seem to do, because a no holds barred is basically the same as a street fight. So they could have Shane versus AJ in a no holds barred match, and Ambrose versus Corbin in a street fight. It's the same match, they're just calling it something different.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure if Ambrose is technically that good. I think he excels in the sort of hardcore Attitude Era type matches. I think the one-on-one matches, where it's just basically a straight match, no holds barred type thing. If it's just a straight match, I'm not convinced he's brilliant at those matches.
Then you're not watching the right matches, then, are you?
Can you?
You
Okay.
must be watching something else.
What
Rach,
was
I'm
the
just going to leave
last?
this to you. You can take him here.
What was the last great Ambrose match?
Rach?
All of them.
All okay.
I'm not
Right.
bashing him at all.
Ambrose never has a bad match,
Because to be fair,
according to Rach.
I can think of a fairly, a couple of good Reigns matches. I can think of a couple of good Rollins matches. I struggle to think of a couple of good Ambrose matches.
That's because you just don't want to like him. Because
No, honestly, even the matches
mean.
with AJ were good. They weren't as good as AJ's matches with other people.
Well, that's because AJ is technically, a good wrestler.
But
Ambrose brings something different to a match.
he does, and like I said, I think he's better in the hardcore environments, which isn't a knock on him. People need to be good in those environments. I think that's where his strength is. He's obviously a brawler, a hardcore guy, and I'm just thinking that's why they have to make the match with Corbin a bit something of a gimmick match.
They will do. They will definitely add something to it. It's not just going to be a straight one-on-one. There will be definitely something about it.
I think he'd been building towards some sort of gimmick match, as long as you don't make it a forklift match.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where they're going, isn't it? There'd be some weird thing involving a forklift. What was that match they had at WrestleMania a couple of years ago? Was it a dumpster match and they put a forklift on it? Was that?
Oh, was that ages ago?
I think I was like 15, wasn't it? I think it was, yeah.
With New Age Outlaws. And
Yeah, that one.
Charlie and-
Yeah, that's the last forklift I remember.
Was it not Daniel Bryan and Kane had a forklift match or something, did they not?
Yeah, something like that.
Or there was a match involving a forklift with Daniel Bryan and Kane. So
I could see them doing something like that.
I don't think it's going to be a forklift match. That would just be ridiculous for a WrestleMania. Come on.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I'm
I
gonna hold
WrestleMania, the forklift match. Like, get out of here with that shit.
I'm going to hold you to that next week when we do our preview. If that's the match they've been announced, I'm going to hold you to this, and we will mock you.
If they do the forklift match, I want to see Austin drive the beer truck in.
That'd be just anything to get Austin on the show. Right?
Yeah.
Staying on SmackDown for a second, going back to Raw for a minute. One thing we missed out on Raw was about Aries and Neville. So it looks like they're going for a straight one-on-one match.
Well, 205 Live last night, they had a 5-way elimination match.
Yeah.
For the number one contendership, and Aries won that. So it is Neville versus Aries one-on-one.
So we spoke about it last week, and we kind of all wanted that to be the direction they're going in. So it's obviously good that they're doing that. But where does that leave the other cruiserweights? Because they haven't really announced anything for them, have they?
They might have a tag match or a multi-man match on the pre-show.
Because at the moment, I think we've got about 16 announced matches. So this pre-show and show is going to be a bit ridiculous.
Well, it's going to start about 5 o'clock and finish at midnight.
I think so far there's been 11 official matches announced.
But I think there's a couple of matches like Rollins and Triple H, which hasn't been announced, that is fairly
It's
obvious.
still to come, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's going to end up being...
There'll be about
7
14,
hours,
15
isn't it?
matches.
Yeah.
Which is, you're going to have numb bums by the end of the show. Like. So
They're going to have a mini concert with Pitbull and all them.
yeah, that's the toilet. That's the toilet break right there.
Yeah.
I'm not
Obviously,
I don't fly thousands of miles to see a gig.
One match that won't be happening, Big Show and Shaq. That seems to be
Yay!
off, yeah. So
Happy with that.
So Chris, you mock, but we've been saying on this podcast for weeks, let's not do this, and they're not doing it. So clearly Vince is listening. So you have to be a little bit more careful with the stuff that you say. We have more influence than you realise.
Right, so if Vince is listening, let's stop pushing Reigns.
Yeah.
He doesn't listen that much.
No, Vince, keep pushing him.
Stop pushing Kev.
Employ Chris to do the writing.
Don't. It'll just be full of Scottish guys, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, Drew Galloway's world champion by next week.
I think we've said a lot of buzzwords in this podcast. That means Vince definitely won't be listening. Any podcast that mentions Drew, if we mention CM Punk, we'll definitely be on the banned list.
Oh, that'll have to get beeped out now.
So I think that's Raw and SmackDown pretty much covered. So we got a couple of questions in this week from our avid followers. So we don't really talk about NXT that much, to be fair. So someone's asked about Tye Dillinger. So Liam Kerr on Twitter has asked, where do we see Tye Dillinger going from here? So obviously he was at the Rumble, hasn't really been seen since.
Get back on NXT.
Sorry, yeah, hasn't really been seen on the main shows since.
No.
So Do we see anything for him in the next couple of months on the main rosters?
No.
I'd like to see him on the main roster, but I don't think at the moment there's a spot for him. So I think
the Raw and Smackdown after Mania are sort of the debut shows where a bunch of guys traditionally debut. Do you see Tye as one of them?
Nakamura.
No, I don't see it being Tye Dillinger. No way.
It's Nakamura, 100%.
Obviously, Tye could go to Raw.
No, it's not his time yet.
Where's his spot on Raw, though? There isn't a place for him. He would just get lost in the shuffle on there. I think he stays in NXT. I think he's maybe deserves a little bit more of a push in NXT to maybe an upper card spot, maybe give him a couple of wins or something like that. But the fans are behind him. He's got a good gimmick that's easy to get behind as well, with the 10 chant and everything like that. So he's likable, good in the ring.
I think
NXT is a good spot for him just now.
I think we could probably all say good things about him. I think he's, like you say, he's good in a lot of areas. I will say that 10 chant, it's already annoying.
I so knew you were going to say that.
Honestly, I'm not being grumpy, but when some guys are outside the ring and the referee's counting, for the whole crowd to count 10 for each number is the most annoying thing that's ever happened.
It's not as bad as that one fall.
No, that one fall is a bit irritating as well, but I'm blaming Tye completely for that 10 thing. It's going to get as annoying as the what chant.
What?
Honestly, I just kind of want Tye to stay where he is.
What?
Just so that 10 chant goes away.
What?
Oh, I think so. Next week, Chris won't be here. So, but like you said, I think he's good in the ring. I think he connects with the audience. So, I think it's a shame he's stuck on NXT. Really, I think he could do good things on the main roster.
He could. I just don't see a spot for him at the moment. And that's not a knock on him. I just think the talent on the main roster is that loaded and that stacked. Where do you put him?
You say that, but after Mania, Triple H goes away again. Undertaker goes. Cena probably goes. Lesnar probably goes. Goldberg goes. You know, there are spots opening up soon.
Not enough. Maybe by the draft or something, but not right now. I don't see it happening like in the next couple of months. Probably by the draft, but not now.
You're saying all those guys going. The one you mentioned was Cena, and his spot is getting taken up by Nakamura on SmackDown. That's what I see happening there.
Yeah,
okay, maybe that's just what I want.
I think Nakamura AJ has to happen, doesn't it?
That'll happen WrestleMania next year.
I'd love that to happen.
I was going to say, because obviously
I've just got an awful feeling that I don't want this to happen, but I've got an awful feeling they're going to move AJ to Raw.
Well, obviously after WrestleMania, whatever happens with him and Shane, they've got to keep them apart, I guess, haven't they? Because he's basically just beat up his boss, so it's tough for him to stay on SmackDown, isn't it?
Yeah, Austin beat up his boss every week.
Yeah, okay.
And people kept on coming back and watching that, so...
Yeah.
But
yeah, hopefully they keep AJ where he is, because I think if they move Sami Zayn across and they put Nakamura, those three, that's a bunch of matches that I would watch all day long.
And Damon's talking my language.
Yeah. For once.
Sami Zayn, Nakamura, and AJ Styles all on the same brand. Shut up and take my money.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You could easily put those three guys in any type of matches, and you're just going to be guaranteed a good match no matter what. Yeah, I mean, I've seen of Zayn and Nakamura at TakeOver last year. The best match I've seen live. So to do that again and for me to be there would just be absolutely amazing.
I think NXT TakeOver last year was probably, I don't know if you want to class it as a pay-per-view, but it's probably the show of the year, wasn't it?
I would say so. Well, definitely from me, yeah. It was the show of last WrestleMania season, yeah.
Yeah. So as a slight tangent, just moving on to another question we've had on Facebook from Jack. So he's asked for your thoughts on what's your least favourite pay-per-view ever of all time, I guess. So we'll start with Chris, shall we? So obviously NXT TakeOver was your favourite. Have you got a
favourite of last year? Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got one that sticks in your mind as being your least favourite?
When WWE done their little ECW rebrand, they done a pay-per-view called ECW December to Dismember, but they went into the pay-per-view and they had one match announced, and it was an elimination chamber match, and it was just the whole card from top to bottom was just unorganized, and it was just a bad pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that, but I'm not sure if I entirely watched much of the ECW offshoots because it was like a watered down version, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, the first episode had a zombie on it.
Oh well, hang on, you're selling this to me now.
No, trust me.
That sounds pretty cool.
Oh, it's a comedy thing if you want to watch it. Not intentional comedy. It's just that bad. It's funny.
So I think Kev is probably going to say WrestleMania 9, aren't you, Kev?
No. What's that one? Is it WrestleMania 17?
Now we know you're talking crap.
I'm joking there. One of the worst I've seen was In Your House 4, and I'm sure it was called The Great White North.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was terrible. There was DQ losses everywhere. Bret Hart, being in Canada, was on a pre-show on the dark match. It was just weird and terrible.
I think some of those early In Your Houses are really tough to go back and watch now.
Yeah, because they were only a couple, couple hours, weren't they? It was like an hour and 40 an hour, or 2 hours, 2 hours or something, weren't they? But very short. That was
with Todd Pettengill giving a house away.
On paper, it actually doesn't look that bad.
Fine.
Obviously.
Okay, we've got some homework for next week. Chris is going to watch that event and give us his review next week, I think.
No, just because it's a pay-per-view that I don't really remember, so it must have been that bad that I don't remember it. But on paper, it looks all right. So
on paper, it was fine, but actually watching it was, what am I watching? It was literally watching the end of WCW.
I was going to say, you've got a lot of WCW pay-per-views to pick from. There must have been some bad ones in those lot.
Particularly towards the end, probably, Kev.
Yeah.
I think there was too many again there to mention.
How about you, Rach? Can you think of a one that sticks in your mind as being particularly dull?
Oh, I never liked those Cyber Sunday and what was the other one? Taboo Tuesdays or whatever they used to be. Oh my gosh, those literally gimmick match overloads. That just becoming embarrassing. I wasn't ever a fan of that.
The Cyber Sundays were weird because it was basically choose between 3 matches. It was like street fight, no DQ match, and like a no holds barred.
No holds barred.
Yeah, you think, well, hang on, what's happened here?
They're all the same match.
Same thing.
Completely pointless. But to be fair, it was kind of a unique attempt at doing something, wasn't it?
I guess, but for me, I just didn't enjoy it. I thought it was a bit too much, a bit too cringe.
And when we would do the 3 legends to be special guests, and you just knew it was going to be Shawn Michaels. It's like you can choose between Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, or Ricky Steamboat. It's Shawn Michaels. Just tell us that Shawn Michaels is going to be the special guest ref, and don't bring the
yeah. It was just slightly insulting that you didn't think that they already had a plan in place. It was quite obvious that they already had their own ideas as to what it was going to be. So.
And did they charge for those votes? Was it on the app or something? Because if they charged, that's a bit of a.
It was on the website, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah, you had vote on the website or something. Yeah,
like a poll. Yeah.
This is pre-app days.
Yeah.
So I've been able to look at some old pay-per-views recently as well. I think probably the worst for me, especially because it was a big 5 at the time. King of the Ring. I wonder if you can all guess the year. Chris would probably have a go at guessing the year.
I'm going to say 1995.
It was 95, yeah. I think any year that has Mabel being King of the Ring is a pretty bad year. I think it was a Bret Hart, Jerry Lawler Kiss My Foot match.
Oh, so, yeah.
That was a classic of all time.
That's when Glenn Jacobs came in as Dr. Isaac Yankem soon after that.
I do miss him as well.
Glenn Jacobs, also known as Kane.
And obviously, I think where they picked to run it as well, this was 95, and they ran it in Philadelphia. And I'm pretty sure the ECW fans didn't really appreciate a Bret Hart, Jerry Lawler match. So, it was the whole crowd just shut on it from start to finish. So, yeah, it was a pretty terrible pay-per-view.
I think the King of the Ring the year after that was kind of remembered a little bit better. 1996.
Yeah, just.
Austin 316.
Yeah. To be fair, that actually didn't push him. He was kind of stuck in nowhere for a good few pay-per-views after that.
Yeah, but that was the start of it. If it wasn't for that promo and the fact we could do a whole thing about how that came to be as well. There's a lot of circumstances.
I was going to say there's a story behind that, wasn't there?
Yeah.
with a curtain call.
Oh, there was that as well, but it goes back to the curtain call, but there's more stories about what happened on the night, which we can go into now if you want.
Oh, I think, I'll tell you what, we should do a look back at some old pay-per-views over the next few weeks, and probably after WrestleMania season, we can go back and look at a few old shows. So maybe King of the Ring 96 will be one of the first ones we do, so we can have a chat about that then.
Yeah, it's just because it's quite an interesting story for people that don't know what happened in that. And
so now you've sort of whet their appetite. They'll have to tune in a few weeks and hear your stories.
Unless they Google it, which don't do that, because listen to us.
Well, Chris has got a unique view, which Google won't have, so you can only get that from Chris.
This is true.
So I think we've got a lot to talk about on the UK indie side as well. So I know there's a lot of ICW shows recently. Live from satellite, as we promised, we're going to bring Adam back in. So say hello, Adam.
Hello.
Nice of you to finally join us for once.
Well, I thought I'd best show my voice.
Yeah, everyone missed you. I'm sure you're back by popular demand, aren't you?
Oh God, yeah, hugely popular.
Yeah. So obviously I went to an ICW show in Bristol. You went to one in Leeds.
That's correct, yeah.
I guess I probably should go first then, since the show I went to was on the day before yours. So yeah, mine was in Bristol in a really weird old warehouse / skate park.
I saw the pictures on Twitter and I thought, that just looks like an old abandoned warehouse.
Yeah, it is, yeah. If you've seen any sort of CSIs, Criminal Minds, it's basically the place where people get killed. So it's that sort of abandoned warehouse with chains from the ceiling and that, that sort of stuff. It was really strange. It was very much an indie show, if that made sense. The building made it very much an indie show. There was just concrete floors, no padding down there. And some of the bumps they were taking, kind of winced a little bit. Some of these guys really don't care. So Chris probably knows more about ICW than me, but I'm not sure how much of a following it's got outside Glasgow. I know sort of Glasgow to Edinburgh sort of...
Oh, it's getting bigger.
Yeah. Better,
obviously. I mean, they say this is the biggest shows that have sold in Liverpool, Leeds and Bristol, so it's getting there. There's always seems to be quite a lot of interest in them coming back to those places. So
I think I'll quickly sort of run down who I saw as the biggest stars or the best performers, and be interesting to see if your thoughts back me up on this, because obviously you know these guys a lot better than me. So the first match we had was Kenny Williams. So he seemed to be a bit of a big star in there. Not really seen too much of him before, but the crowd reaction he got, the sort of performance he put in against a guy, Flash Morgan, again, I'd never seen before, but Kenny Williams seems to be a bit of a standout.
Yeah, Kenny Williams, I think he's only how old? He's 21, 22.
He's a young lad still.
Yeah, he's got a great future in it. I think he was also a part of World of Sport, sorry. On ITV, he was in that, wasn't he?
Yeah, because he won. They had a ladder match or something for him to get into the title match later on, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he won that, didn't he? Yeah, I think he's got a great future. I just think if he does ever get called up to the WWE, his gimmick's going to definitely 100% have to change, because they're not going to let him do the Marty McFly gimmick,
Back to the Future of a gimmick, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, how's that going to affect him?
I mean, that's still a gimmick that's kind of got him to where he is today, and it is obviously still quite a popular gimmick in ICW and everything like that. But he still gets a reaction from what I believe anywhere else that he goes as well. So,
well, to be fair, having seen him, that gimmick didn't come across hugely strongly. Obviously picked up on it, but he wasn't pushing it a huge amount. And I don't know if his entrance music used to be different, but
he used to have Huey Lewis, Power of Love. So
yeah, talking to a couple of guys in the crowd who are big ICW fans, they're talking about how the entrance music is starting to go a bit more generic, I think, in preparation for them going on the network. So there's a lot of changes happening from what they were telling me, and it's taking away from a few guys, I think, and not necessarily a bad thing. I think if some gimmicks need changing, then the music will help them. But his look seemed quite strong. I think he's got a lot of potential, like you said. So he was one that definitely stood out.
He's very good in the ring. I mean, Kev, you'll come in here and say the match with the re-seen at ICW in Newcastle.
Oh, with Ricochet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the best nights, one of the best matches of the night, sorry. It was really, really good.
And that for me wasn't just down to Ricochet. Kenny Williams kept up with Ricochet, and everybody knows how good Ricochet is, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was definitely one guy that stood out. He was the opener. So I noticed him straight away. Second match we had was Polo Promotions and Modern Culture, and again, you'll probably jump in here, Chris. None of these guys particularly stood out. It was a pretty forgettable short match. And
Polo Promotions in the last wee while have kind of changed their gimmick from what they were into what they are now. So they're still over with the ICW fans, but I don't think it's particularly as strong as what it was maybe 6 to 8 months ago.
Yeah, the crowd didn't particularly care, to be honest. It was kind of a bit of a filler match, that one. Davey Blaze was in there as well against Ravy Davey. I got to say, Ravy Davey is the most annoying person I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I know that's his gimmick, but Jesus Christ, that's annoying.
The Fresh Prince of Drummoyne Square.
Jeez. The JD bag did make me laugh a lot, though. Just cheered me up a little
JD
bit.
bag, and was it an aquatism hat or something?
Yeah.
Burberry hat, sorry, it would have been.
Yeah, so very, very annoying person. And then, Pete Dunne was on the card as well against Joe Hendry. Not quite sure what Pete Dunne's deal was here, really. He's kind of in, middle of the card, fairly quick match. He was as good as he always is, clearly one of the stars, really. But you could tell sort of straight away that he was, when some wrestlers turn up, there immediately you can tell that they're slightly better than the rest. You could kind of tell that almost straight away. And
I think Pete Dunne's kind of got that stature about him now as well, hasn't he? He's got a presence.
Yeah, definitely. And the crowd reacted to him, even though he's a heel. You just can't particularly boo him. Everyone sort of loved him. But yeah, it's sort of a bit of a quick throwaway middle of the card match. Not quite sure what his deal with ICW is.
I'm not 100% sure. I know they're all independent, so they can get booked, I suppose, isn't it? So
yeah. And then one of the matches that surprised the whole crowd, really. BT Gunn beat Joe Coffey. A load of guys next to me that I was chatting to seemed really surprised that Joe Coffey had lost. I know he's got that briefcase, so they're expecting a big push for him. So yeah, everyone's quite surprised by that.
Hashtag briefcase wanker.
Yeah. How good was that match though? Because on paper that should have been a really good match.
To be fair, it wasn't particularly that great. Again, it might be different for me because I'm coming in knowing nobody, so I don't really have the history of it. So I didn't particularly know what the briefcase meant. A couple of the guys sort of filled me in and stuff, but I come in with no history, and as a match coming to it cold, it didn't blow me away. It was sort of almost a bog standard match, and I wouldn't have particularly known those two guys were anything special or stars of the promotion. They just seemed where their match was, which was kind of middle of the card.
I'll be honest and say I prefer BT Gunn to Joe Coffey, but I think BT Gunn's got a little bit more experience, so he knows what he's doing a little bit more than what Joe Coffey does. But that's not taking anything away from Joe Coffey. He'll have quite a big future in the business as well, I would think.
A couple of guys afterwards. There's a guy that his first name is obviously Welsh. That's tricky for me to pronounce. I think it's
Yeston Reese.
Yeston Reese. Yeah, there you go. He looked like a guy that was the typical sort of indie jobber that turns up for a couple of matches and gets beat. That's what he looked like. And the crowd didn't really react to him. I don't know how long he's been there, but the crowd didn't really react to him that much at the start. By the end, he pretty much won everybody over, and he was the one guy out of everybody that I'd never heard of that stood out the most for me.
I think he's got a really good look, though, hasn't he? I mean, he looks jacked.
Really does. And I kind of got, fully into him. I kind of, fully into that match as well. And those two names, I've never heard of him or Aaron Echo before. And
when for the Aaron Echo match, did you get the usual Aaron Echo chant? So it was like Aaron Echo, Echo, Echo.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Yeah. Again, I think the crowd were a little bit flat in the middle of the show, and those two guys kind of won it back over. The crowd started getting a bit more into it during that match. So yeah, kind of fan of Reese's really, just because of that match. He looks pretty good in there. And then Wolfgang was there with Charlie Sterling. I was quite a big fan of Charlie Sterling from the first time I saw ICW in November. He's got quite a good look as well.
December
was it? Yeah.
I'll keep you right. Don't worry.
Thanks very much. So obviously Wolfgang was his usual Wolfgangness. So you know what you're going to get with him. I think he's kind of brings the quality in every match, doesn't he? Really.
Again, that's a little bit of star power, which obviously comes from him being involved with WWE as well. So.
But Sterling was pretty good as well.
Held his own.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's probably due a big push, I would imagine. The main event was Trent Seven and Jack Jester, and that was probably the match of the night. That was the one match that they were allowed to do what they wanted, so they just smashed the place to bits. So they brought out tables and they broke the barricades and all the rest of it. So that match got a bit more wild than the rest. Probably my first sort of real ICW experience in a way, because I was really close to it. I was like front row, right by the barriers, pretty close in the action, and it's definitely be something I'll be following more of for sure.
Good to know that you're going to be following it more then. So it's obviously you've seen enough to make you want to see more of it. So that's obviously a positive sign. So
yeah, definitely. So I'd obviously recommend that fully. So I'd be interested to see how Adam's experience compares.
Yeah, well, mine I think pretty much took the same schedule as yours. Really, I had Kenny Williams versus Martin Kirby in the first match, which again we've talked about Kenny Williams, and he has got a big future, but I just worry that his gimmick's gonna be ruined because I can't see it. I just wonder what kind of gimmick he'll have.
I can see where you're coming from with that one, but I'm a big Kenny Williams fan as well. Like you said, he's got a big future, and he's still really, really young as well. So, but it'll be interesting to see if and when his gimmick does change, what it changes to. So, I mean, everybody's kind of got to change at some point, don't they?
The next one, again, I'm with Damien. It was Polo Promotions against The Purge, and I really liked The Purge's look.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they had a really good look, but Polo Promotions, I just didn't get into it. Next match was Davey Blaze against Aaron Echo. Again, it wasn't a great match, but Davey Blaze is a good heel. He got a few reactions from the crowd, and he's a good heel.
So I was gonna mention, Adam, just quickly. One thing I think that you had at your show was some women wrestlers. We had none of them in Bristol at all.
Yeah, well, actually, the next match was Lana Austin versus Viper. I've seen Lana Austin twice now, and I think she is great. I noticed in ICW she was a face, but when I went to see her the other week for Tidal, she was a heel, and I think the heel persona suits her a lot better than being a face.
I've not seen Lana Austin myself, so I can't really comment on her. I mean, I've seen videos, and that's about my knowledge of Lana Austin, but I've seen a lot of Viper, and Viper can go in the ring.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Viper definitely can go. I think it's only a matter of time now before she gets signed up to one of the big companies.
Well, while we're talking about women's wrestling, obviously, and you think getting signed up, there is talk of WWE having that women's tournament in the summer.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, and if she's not in it, then there's something wrong.
So that could be where she might end up there. I don't know, but she is obviously doing quite a lot of things in Japan as well. So be interesting to see where Viper goes in the future too.
So after the women's match, we had Wolfgang and Jack Jester. And now, am I right in thinking Wolfgang's turned heel?
Yes.
Right. I don't know. I just didn't get him really. I just didn't see the big appeal, which probably Chris is now getting ready to punch me or something.
I was going to say, I can see what Adam is saying, because he's got a look of like a big guy, and there's plenty of other big guys in ICW, and from what I've seen on that one or two shows, other guys can probably wrestle better than him. So I could kind of see Adam's point in the fact that what makes him stand out, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but when he does come out, he gets the reactions. He's got something about him.
He's got, again, it's gone back to, he's got a presence where he makes you want to watch what he's doing. And for someone of his size, the agility that he's got as well, then the things that he can do for someone of his size is pretty impressive as well. But he's had good matches with a lot of different types. I mean, going back to the one that we were at in December, Damien, the match he had with Stevie Boy, it was a fantastic match.
Again, like Adam's saying, I think on paper you go, okay, there's nothing special, but again, I've seen him 3-4 times on telly, twice live, and every single match I've got into, so there's something definitely about him, and to the point where looking at what show Adam went to, thinking of Wolfgang and Jack Jester, that would be a match that I'd be really keen to see.
Yeah,
because I've not seen both guys.
Depending on what type of match that they had, though, what was the match like, Adam?
It was a really good match. It was. Obviously, I'm not giving away any spoilers because I think they are gonna. It is a TV show, isn't it? TV taping, so
yeah.
It was a really really good match. I just don't see the appeal of him.
So Adam, what was the sort of main events of your show?
It was Joe Hendry versus local boy Liam Slater.
I was going to say I've actually seen a couple of Liam Slater matches, but well.
Yeah, I seen him last week at WCPW against Cody Rhodes, and I tell you, he matched Cody move for move. He was really, really good. Really impressed with him.
Yeah, I think he's only a young lad. I think he's only about 22, 23 or something. Again, another one with a good future. The next match, I had Joe Coffey and Dave Mastiff. Again, I struggled to see the appeal with Joe Coffey.
What were your thoughts on Dave Mastiff? Because that's another name that I've heard of and I haven't yet got around to seeing.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a massive Dave Mastiff fan. I think for a man of his size, the things he can do.
So, yeah, it's good at what he does, yeah, from what I've seen of him at least.
Based on his look and a couple of very brief clips I've seen of him, and a couple of people have said he's got a bit of a Vader thing about him. Is that fair at all?
I don't know, really. Maybe, yeah. Trying to think who else. I mean,
and he's still quite small, isn't he? He's under what? He's about 5'10".
Yeah. 5'10", 300 pounds plus.
Mm-hmm. So he's still got a good look, obviously, because he can still go in the ring. So it's I'd like Dave Mastiff as well from what I've seen of him. So
I think your main event on paper seems a lot better than mine was in Bristol. You had a couple of big names in yours.
Yeah, I mean, we had Trent Seven defending against BT Gunn, Chris Renfrew, and Pete Dunne. Obviously, I think it was meant to be. Was it meant to be Trent versus Drew Galloway?
Yeah.
Obviously, Drew Galloway pulled out due to family reasons. So then, obviously, they got Pete Dunne in and they made it a fatal four-way. It was basically the New Age Clique versus British Strong Style for quite a lot of it.
I'm looking forward to seeing that when it's on the ICW On Demand. Really, I'm looking forward to seeing that match.
I mean, I won't ruin anything for you, but it was an awesome match. Like I say, you know what you're going to get with Pete Dunne and Trent Seven, but the other two I'd never really seen. So but they are really good.
I was going to say, the one thing I took away from Chris Renfrew is I wouldn't want to particularly cross him. He seems like he would absolutely kill me if I looked at him the wrong way, which is a good look. I think it's a strong look, but yeah, he's a bit of a scary guy, really, isn't he? Adam can give a slight summary as well, but I think going from WWE, which has been almost exclusively my experience, to ICW, probably the one thing is that WWE from time to time is a bit tame, a bit comedy. You get bits and pieces. Is a bit more PG now. ICW was just guys basically just punching each other in the face for a couple of hours, and I quite liked that change in pace. It seemed a bit more real, a bit more authentic, and again, like I've said on this podcast before, I quite like the realistic style, the strong style, and yeah, it was a big change from WWE, and it was took me a while, I think, to get into it, but once I did get into it, it was definitely a show that I enjoyed.
I think it's something that you need as well. Just different styles. Like you've got ICW can maybe be a little bit not hardcore, but a little bit more on the darker side of grey. Do you think any
sort of deal with WWE might ruin that, or do you think they'll still be allowed to retain a bit of sort of the underground ECW old style that they've got going on?
I think they've got to retain some of it because it's what's kind of brought people to the dance, if that makes sense. So it's what's made the ICW as popular as what it is just now is the fact that it's not WWE, it's an alternative.
So I guess, Adam, how did you find it, your first ICW show? How did you find it, probably not only compared to WWE, but compared to Progress, which you've seen more of than me?
ICW's mainly, predominantly, even further north than I am. I think the crowd wasn't great, whereas you go to Progress and the way they put shows on with locations, it's either London, Birmingham, Manchester, which has got a massive wrestling following. I just think the crowd wasn't up to like the Progress standard, but I think that's mainly because it was so far away from home. Whereas, like I've seen clips when, like they mentioned, they went to Newcastle and the atmosphere was like 10 times better than it was in Leeds.
I think Kev will probably agree with that as well, Kev.
Yeah, definitely.
Atmosphere, what it was like in Newcastle, show you were at.
The atmosphere was really, really good. Way, way better than the WWE events I've been to there.
And
I
even
think it's probably the same for Bristol as well. The Bristol crowd were decent. There was a lot of knowledgeable guys there, so they made a lot of noise, but it wasn't quite as good, or they got a bit flat in places. And I think compared to the Glasgow event I went to, the Glasgow crowd obviously were definitely more lively.
more boisterous.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting. I mean, every ICW is still kind of growing and down south, we'll say, but especially they're obviously big up north. And
I think it's getting there. Definitely, there is a crowd for it down south, and I think there was enough people to fill the building. And the ring announcer said there was a bigger crowd than the last time, so it's obviously going in the right direction for them.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's still growing, and if they do end up going onto the WWE network, I think it's only going to grow further. Especially with the fact that obviously people with the WWE network will start watching those shows and maybe become more familiar with the guys that are on the shows and will want to see them.
So I think coming up over the next few weeks, then there'll be a bit of a more indie shows for us to compare to. So Progress show on Sunday in Manchester. But interesting for us to compare Progress to ICW and see what we think of that.
That'll be my first Progress show, so I'm quite looking forward to that.
And then after Mania, I think we've got a couple of shows coming up as well. And we've got Progress show in Birmingham in July.
the one show I'm looking forward to seeing after Mania is the Fight Club Pro show in Manchester. Fucking awesome.
There'll be a lot of indie talk over the next couple of months then on this show, as well as the usual WWE stuff. So obviously people can tweet us at TSO_podcast and go on our Facebook at facebook.com/the Social Oddities Podcast. Get in touch, recommend some shows, recommend some people. We will check them out, and then you can hear our thoughts on this show every Thursday. So I think that's probably covers the ICW week that we've had in probably far more detail than we were expecting. Say bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Catch you next week, guys.
Bye.
See you next week.
Don't forget to tune in next time for more fighting talk. Catch you next time.